Welcome to the Canadian edition of The Gospel Truth with Andrew Womack, a teaching ministry that focuses on God's unconditional love and grace.
It's like he was just putting the pieces together for me in such a way that just was simple but powerful. And I was like, yeah, this is God's truth right here.
It wasn't always what I wanted to hear, but I knew it was the truth, and I always wanted the truth.
And now, here's Andrew.
Welcome to our Friday's broadcast of The Gospel Truth. Today I'm at the end of my second week teaching on Joseph. Lessons from Joseph is what this series is all about. And I have it in CD and also in DVDs. These were taken directly from my television program. And then my staff has also put together a little free booklet. This is called the Introduction to Lessons from Joseph. It's just a brief summary. We also have this teaching on Joseph available on USB. And then we have a package deal where you can not only get the lessons from Joseph, but you can get lessons from David and lessons from Elijah. I've said so much already that there's no way I can go back through all of this. I'd like to mention that I'm using my living commentary. That's the reason I have my computer out here. This is a digital commentary that I've written, commentary on over 26,000 verses in the Bible. And I've just got so many things written here. I've got Hebrew words defined. I've got references, and you put your little cursor over the reference and it just automatically brings it up. You don't have to go to a different screen. It's just the best way I have of referencing and going through things. So I'm using that. You can get this living commentary. We've now got over 20,000 people who have gotten the living commentary. And I tell you, it's really a good deal. So we've been talking from Genesis chapter 41. This is after Joseph has already been sold into slavery. He's already been falsely accused by the master's wife. He's been put in prison. And now he's out of prison. He interpreted Pharaoh's 2 dreams to him. And Pharaoh, after he interpreted the dreams, he began to tell Pharaoh what to do. And I was emphasizing this on my program yesterday. This is only God that could put a person there was an Egyptian prejudice against Hebrews, and also he was coming out of prison. And here he is talking to the most powerful man on the planet, telling him what to do. Only God could put Joseph in a position like that. I'm telling you, if you will serve God, and if you will seek Him with your whole heart, God will make you look good. God will put you in places and give you authority and positions that in the natural you could have never obtained unto it. Now there's a huge difference between me and Joseph, I admit, but there are also similarities that I guarantee you, if I was God, I wouldn't have chosen me. I'm a college dropout. I'm a hick from Texas. There's just a lot of negatives in my life, and yet God has promoted me and given me influence and allowed me to share with other people. I could name dozens, probably hundreds of people if I sat down and thought about it, who are alive today that would have been dead if I hadn't shared with them and prayed with them and seen them heal. I can show you marriages that are changed. I can show you people's lives that are changed. And so there are some similarities in the sense that, here I came and God has blessed me and God has made me look good. I had somebody just recently saying, "How did you do all of this?" And I said, "I don't really have a clue. I've often said it's like me being in a roller coaster and all I am is strapped in and holding on for dear life. I am not controlling what's happening. I'm just seeking God, and God has given me the opportunity to influence and touch a lot of people's lives. God will make you look good if you'll seek Him. But the problem is most people tend to think that, God, I can handle it. You just get me introduced. You give me an opportunity and I can take it from here. That's the very reason that God hadn't used you yet. For a number of reasons. One of them is He loves you too much to give you an influence and put you in a position of leadership. I guarantee you just got a big old target painted on you. Satan is going to come against you, trying to destroy you. And if you don't have the character to be able to handle the promotion that God gives you, it would hurt you. And so one of the reasons God doesn't promote you is because He loves you too much. But then He also loves the people that would be underneath you, and He doesn't want you to become a bad example and discourage other people. So it just takes time for God to work, but if you will allow it, God will put you in a position just like Joseph, where He promoted Joseph, and here's Joseph telling the most powerful man on the planet what he should do. I love that. Only God could do that. And in verse 38, Pharaoh said unto his servants, Can we find such a one as this is, a man in whom the Spirit of God is? And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, Forasmuch as God has shown thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art. Thou shalt be over my house, and according to thy word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than thou. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, See, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand. The ring is how he would seal things. It was his official document. It was like a notary or something. It was official. And he took his ring off and gave it to Joseph, put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck. And he made him to ride in the second chariot which he had, and they cried before him, Bow the knee. And he made him ruler over all of the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without thee shall no man lift up his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. Man, this is just nearly too good to believe. If this wasn't in the Bible, you would think surely this is some kind of a story that somebody made up. How could a person come from the pit to the palace in just an hour's time? How could somebody that Pharaoh had only known just a matter of minutes? It probably didn't take over 20 minutes for him to tell his dream and then Joseph to interpret it, and Joseph gave him these instructions. And in 20 minutes' time, he was willing to turn over the reins of the entire nation to a man that he had only known for 20 minutes, who was a person that the Egyptians despised and who had come out of prison. I tell you, this is miraculous. This is amazing. This is only God. And I'm telling you that, brothers and sisters, every one of us, God has a plan for your life just as surely as He had a plan for Joseph's life. And you may not see it. Joseph didn't see it for 13 years. There wasn't one single positive thing. Everything looked like it was going against Joseph. But he held on to those dreams that God gave him. And then, boom, like that, he went from the pit to the palace in just overnight. Everybody would love to have the success that Joseph had, but very few people are willing to keep themselves encouraged and fight against the discouragement and keep looking by faith and going by the vision that's in their heart instead of letting circumstances and reality dictate to them. Everybody wants the success, but very few people are willing to go through what Joseph went through to get there. You know, one of the reasons that God gives you these visions, and I've already spent quite a bit of time talking about this, I won't go back through all of it, but He gave Joseph those two dreams. One of the reasons He gives you those dreams is because in between the time that God shows you His will for your life and when you see it come to pass, there's going to be time and there's going to be opposition. If you never run into the devil, it's because you're both headed in the same direction. You turn around and start going God's way, and I guarantee you there's going to be resistance. It takes more effort to swim upstream than it does to float downstream. A dead fish can float downstream. And sad to say, this is what most people are doing. They're just wanting to flitter their time away. They're wanting to just keep themselves occupied, take the path of least resistance. You are never going to obtain God's best for your life if you just do what's convenient. You need to have a vision from God, and you need to hold on to it and stand through the time and through the opposition that's going to come your way. And most people aren't willing to do that, but they all want the results that Joseph got, but they aren't willing to go through what Joseph went through. You know, I've had people that have come to our school and they see me, I'm blessed. I don't owe any man anything in the money, in the ministry, or personally. My house is paid for. My cars are paid for. I don't owe any money on anything. And people see this and they think, well, God did that for Andrew. He'll do it for me. And that's absolutely true. But what you don't realize is I went through a lot of things to get from where I was to where I am and to see God's provision. And man, I stood at times that everybody around me said quit. I think the only person that hasn't just told me to quit and give up is Jamie. And God put Jamie and me together supernaturally, and she stood with me. But There's times that we didn't have another person on this planet that believed that the vision God had put in my heart would come to pass. And everybody wants these results, but not everybody's willing to go through what we went through to get there. I'm not blaming God. A lot of my problems were all self-inflicted. But nonetheless, I don't think anybody does everything perfectly, and you are going to have to stand, and you will make some mistakes along the way. But you've got to keep yourself encouraged. You know, David, he was anointed by God when he was approximately 17 years old, just like Joseph. And he went for a number of years. Matter of fact, he was 30 when he was anointed to be king. So it was the exact same length of time as what we're talking about here with Joseph. From 17 to 30, 13 years for David, just like Joseph. And did you know that the night before he became king, it looked like everything had failed. His hometown had been invaded. His wife and children, not only his, but all of his men had been taken captive. This is in 1 Samuel chapter 30. And they spoke of stoning him. For 13 years he had been faithful, and yet everything looked like it was going against him. And his own men spoke of stoning him, but it says there in 1 Samuel chapter 30, but David encouraged himself in the Lord his God. He encouraged himself in a situation where his wife and children were taken captive, his city had been burned, his own men were in treason, in revolt, and they were thinking of killing him, and he encouraged himself in the Lord. And within 24 hours, he was king. His vision came to pass. But he was right up against it, and he was just about to quit, or he was tempted to quit. It says in the previous verse that he cried until he had no more power to weep. This was not something that just rolled off of his back. It was a severe test, and yet he stood, and he encouraged himself. I'm speaking to people today that you've got dreams in your heart, and yet it looks like none of them are coming to pass. And you're in a position right now. Are you going to quit? Are you going to give up? Are you going to say, well, I can't do it. God, it's too hard. Are you going to get bitter at God? God, it's all your fault. Joseph didn't do that. David didn't do it. Joseph was promoted over the entire land of Egypt. David became the king within just hours of him encouraging himself against all odds. Everything worked out. Everything's going to work out for you if you don't give up. In Galatians chapter 6, it says, in due season we reap if we faint not. But man, that's a big if. And sad to say, most people faint. There's a scripture that says, if you've run with the footmen and they've wearied you, what are you going to do when the horsemen come? Did you know what that's saying is, if these small things have worn you out, and if you're going to give up over these small things, what are you going to do when something big really happens? And again, if God has destined for you to be in a position of influence and leadership, I guarantee you the moment you get there, you are going to be attacked. You're going to have people come out against you. They shoot for the officers, not for the enlisted people. And I can guarantee you got a big target drawn on you. And if you can't handle the situation you're in right now, you'll never be able to handle it when God promotes you and things work out. I think that's one of the reasons it took 13 years for Joseph from the time God gave him these visions until he stood before Pharaoh, because it just takes time to work that kind of integrity in you. Man, that's really powerful. So in verse 44 again, he says, no man is going to lift up his hand or his foot in all of the land of Egypt without Joseph's approval. That's amazing. Coming from being in the prison to you rule over millions and millions of people. They can't do anything without your permission. That is phenomenal. In verse 45, it says, and Pharaoh called Joseph's name, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce that name. But anyway, it's an Egyptian name, and he gave him to wife, and I'm not going to try and pronounce her name. But this woman was the daughter of Potiphera, I think is the way you pronounce his name, priest of On, and Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt, and Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went throughout all the land of Egypt. Now compare this with Genesis chapter 37, I believe it was verse 2, where it says that Joseph was 17 years old when these dreams came. So this right here says he was 30 when he stood before Pharaoh. So that's 13 years since God gave him the vision, and for 13 years, not a single thing looked good. He was just taking one step down after another, going from being loved of his father to rejected by his brothers to sold into slavery to being lied about and falsely accused of rape, put in prison, and then the guy that he helped get out of prison forgot him and for 2 years just totally ignored him. All of these things looked like just a cascade of failures and nothing was working. I can guarantee you there's people watching this program that have had less happen to you than what happened to Joseph, and yet you have convinced yourself that the world is against you, nothing is working. Joseph had more reason to complain and to get bitter and into unforgiveness and to quit and get depressed than any of us have. And yet he didn't take it. Here's a little sideline. But did you know today there is more depression than there has ever been, as far as I understand? I've even read some things that they talk about how many people are now diagnosed with depression and take medication for depression, and it has skyrocketed. It's exponential, the increase. And yet, I don't believe it's because situations are worse. It's because people are not as strong. People have become lovers of themselves. People have indulged themselves, like it says over in 2 Timothy chapter 3, that they are lovers of their own self. They're lovers of pleasure more than lovers of God. And used to, people had something that was bigger than them. Did you know in World War II, there were people that literally laid their life down knowing that they were going to die? Jamie's uncle, my wife's uncle, she was named after him. His name was James. And he was in the first wave that hit the beaches of Iwo Jima. And they told them that probably the first 5 waves, there was 1,000 people in each wave, the first 5 waves would probably not survive. They were just using them to draw the fire from all of the Japanese, and probably the first 5,000 people would all be killed, but they had to do that in order to get the first person to set their foot on the beach. And he contacted his family knowing that he was probably going to die because he was in the first wave, but he was willing to give his life and lay his life down. He had a cause that was bigger than himself. But did you know what? The people today, there's not very much that's more important to anybody than themselves. There are very few people that would lay down their life today. And that's one of the reasons that God can't promote you, is because you couldn't handle it. I can guarantee you get promoted, you're going to become a target, and Satan's going to fight against you, and you would sit there and start licking your wounds, and you would just fold like a $2 suitcase because you don't have any integrity. I'm not saying that to criticize. I'm saying it to open up our eyes. If you want God to use you, become usable. And quit praying about God just promoting you and thinking about how it advances yourself, and think about how you can serve other people. And here, boy, this is one of the great things that I want to point out right here. In verse 47, it says, "And in the 7 plenteous years the earth brought forth by handfuls. And he gathered up all of the food of the 7 years which were in the land of Egypt, and laid up the food in the cities, the food of the field which was round about every city laid he up in the same. And Joseph gathered corn as the sand of the sea very much, until he left numbering, for it was without number. And unto Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of famine came, which his wife, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, bare unto him. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for God said, He hath made me forget all my toil and my father's house. And the word Manasseh means forgetting. In verse 52, "And the name of the second called he Ephraim, for God hath caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction." And the word Ephraim means fruitful. And so in verse 53, "And the 7 years of plenteousness that were in the land of Egypt were ended, and the 7 years of dearth began to come, according as Joseph had said. And the dearth was in all of the land, but the land of Egypt there was bread. And when all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread." And anyway, because I'm running short on time, I'll just take this up next Monday. But let me point this out, that Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh. So that means 13 years he had been faithful. But again, you could look at it this way: what option did he have? have. As a slave, he couldn't do anything. As a prisoner, he couldn't do anything. But when he became the most powerful man in Egypt outside of Pharaoh, he had access to the armies, to everything. Did you know Joseph could have gone back to his family and taken an army with him, and he could have made his vision come to pass? But he didn't do it. He went through 7 years of plenty and 2 years of the famine. When we continue next week, I'll show you these verses that verify all of that. So it was actually a total of 22 years Joseph went, and 7 or 9 of those years were after he could have made the vision come to pass on his own. He didn't do a thing to make it happen. To me, that is the greatest indication of the true heart and character of Joseph. It's one thing to not gripe and complain when there's nothing you can do. But Joseph, after he became the Lord over the whole land, he could have made those dreams come to pass. If he was just bitter, if he was wanting to get back at his brethren, if he was wanting to punish them, he could have done it. But for 9 years, he just did what God had anointed him to do, and he didn't do one thing to make that vision come to pass. And yet it says, we've already used this verse over in Psalms 105, verse 19, that until the word came, the word of the Lord tried him. The word was what dominated him and kept him going and kept him on path throughout this entire thing. And yet when he had the ability to bring it to pass in his own strength, he didn't do it. He was a God-dependent man. He was trusting God 100%. And that's the reason that he was promoted to this, is because he wasn't self-willed. Man, there's 1,000 scriptures on this, but Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5, trust in the Lord with all of your heart and lean not unto your own understanding. In all of your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your paths. There's just so many scriptures about how we need to let God be the one who defends us. Let God do it. And yet most people only turn to God to get over a crisis, and the moment it looks like the crisis is over, they will go back to doing things their own way, the way that got them into the crisis in the first place. I tell you, I pray that you're paying attention. I know that this is ministering to millions of people right now, and this is the very reason that you haven't seen things come to pass. We can learn these things at Joseph's expense. You don't have to learn everything by hard knocks. These are some great lessons to learn. And I just encourage you to please pray about this and let God speak this into your life. Not only will it bless you, but it'll bless all the people that God wants to touch through your life. I'm out of time today, but remember, I've got this in DVD form and CD form. These are taken from my television program. And then I also have a USB that has all of this video and audio on it. We also have a summary of the teaching that is just a little booklet. My staff put this together. This is a freebie to you. The other things we're asking for a donation of any amount. And then we also have lessons from David and lessons from Elijah. And I promise you that this would really, really help you. So listen to our announcer, and then please call or write today. I'd like to ask you to pray about becoming a partner with us. You know, our ministry is based in the United States, but we have 16 offices around the world. We've got altogether around 70 Bible schools scattered around the world. So if you are looking for a good return on your investment, I believe that this is a good ministry. It'll touch you right where you are. And I encourage you to become a partner with us today and help us put the gospel out all around the world.
Andrew has many conferences and seminars around the globe each year. For the latest information on Andrew's complete speaking schedule, visit our website at awmc.ca/events. Andrew is offering his booklet, Lessons from Joseph, as his free gift to you today. This offer is limited to one free booklet per household and is available in the US, UK, Canada, and Australia. Contact us today to receive your free booklet.
Once again, I would like to encourage you to please get this teaching on Joseph. We have it in DVD form and CD form. We also have a USB that has all of that on there, and my staff put together a little brief summary of this entire teaching. This teaching on Joseph is just powerful. It'll change your life. And then we have a package deal where you could also get teaching lessons from Elijah and lessons from David. If you'll listen, our announcer will give you all of that information, and please call or write and receive these materials today.
Andrew's complete series, Lessons from Joseph, is available in either a CD or DVD album or as a USB made from our daily television broadcast. Each of these resources is available when you contact us. This entire series is also available for audio download, absolutely free from our website. Or you can get these products as part of the lessons package in your choice of either CD, DVD, or USB from Lessons from Joseph, Lessons from David, and Lessons from Elijah. Also, this package will include the Lessons from Joseph booklet. These teachings will give you the chance to learn from the successes and mistakes of three very powerful but very human men of God. The Lessons package has a catalog value of $125, but you can receive all of these valuable resources today for just $90. Go to awmc.ca to see all the ways you can get these products. We also want to remind you of Andrew's Living Commentary software. The Living Commentary includes more than 50 years of Andrew's Bible study notes and personal encounters with God. Get Andrew's Living Commentary today for $135. Go to our website at awmc.ca and click on today's TV offer under the Store tab to see all the ways you can get these products. Or you can call the Andrew Wommack Ministries Canada helpline Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time at 647-348-2220 to order.
I want to let all of you know who are watching our program in Canada that we have a Canadian office. We also have a website, awmc.ca, and you can go there and you can get all of our materials sent to you from our Canadian office. You can become a partner with us and give, and the money will stay right there to help us reach people in Canada. We would love to help you and minister to you any way we can.
To learn more about the vision and mission of Andrew Wommack Ministries Canada, be sure to visit our website at awmc.ca. While there, you'll also find details about all of the products available and be able to access many of Andrew's teachings absolutely free. You can listen to them while you're online or download them for later and listen on the go. The free materials offered by this ministry are made possible by the generous support of our friends and partners. If Andrew's teachings are making a difference in your life, consider becoming a grace partner with Andrew Wommack Ministries Canada today. Go to awmc.ca. Thank you for your support, and we look forward to hearing from you today.